Turning now to the other candidate in the race for the White House, Donald Trump, and the largely unknown political operative at the top of his campaign. Susie Wiles is among a handful of advisors that make up Trump's inner circle right now, working behind the scenes to help the former president win back the White House. NBC's Garrett Haake has more.
When Donald Trump took the stage at his Super Tuesday victory party, he thanked just two staffers by name.
Susie, Chris, incredible job. Incredible job you're doing. I read an article yesterday where it said this is one of the finest run campaigns that anybody has ever seen.
Susie is Susie Wiles, Trump's enigmatic top aide, who has never done a television interview about her role in the former president's campaign. Chris is senior advisor Chris LaCivita.
Susie definitely is probably not only the most interesting, but the most powerful woman in Republican politics right now.
Wiles, a 40-year veteran of Republican politics, cut her teeth working for Congressman Jack Kemp. Her first role with Donald Trump was as the co-chair of his 2016 Florida campaign, a state where she had become well-known in political circles for engineering Rick Scott's razor-thin 2010 victory in the governor's race.
She's a good listener. She's humble. She doesn't say, hey, I know all the answers.
How important do you think those qualities are in working with Donald Trump?
I think they're pretty important.
Wiles next took over the struggling 2018 gubernatorial campaign of Ron DeSantis, for whom Florida firebrand Matt Gaetz was a senior advisor.
What do people get wrong about her?
Well, Susie Wiles is ruthlessly effective. She has the exterior of a kind grandmother, but she knows everything going on in all the campaigns she's involved in.
But the infamously insular DeSantis forced Wiles out of his orbit in 2019. And by 2020, she was helping Mr. Trump win Florida a second time.
I stand before you to officially launch my campaign for a second term as President of the United States.
As the de facto campaign manager of Trump 2024, Wiles has created a largely leak and drama-free campaign operation, where the candidate creates the headlines, for better or worse.
But one thing that Susie doesn't do, she doesn't manage the candidate. She's going to allow Trump to be Trump, but she's not there to control him or stifle him. She's there to make sure that the energy created by President Trump is reflected in an operationally competent campaign.
About Wiles' own political belief, sources say little. She's an environmentalist, one offered. And on the criticism that a longtime establishment figure who once worked in the Reagan White House and later ran John Huntsman's presidential campaign is now leading Donald Trump's, friends of mine from the old days scratch their heads, but I don't care, Wiles told NBC News. I'm quite sure that we are on a mission, and we're going to complete it.
And Garrett Haake joins me now. So, Garrett, this was a great piece on someone that a lot of people don't know really exists and is doing a lot of the work here. So how much harder, though, is Susie Wiles' job going to be, even though, as your piece said, she's going to let Trump be Trump?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's not going to be a pivot here. We've talked about this quite often. So she's not going to try to change Donald Trump. I think her biggest challenge now is scaling up and trying to turn what has been a very successful state-by-state primary campaign into a proper national campaign. But I'm not a big believer in doing staff stories in general unless they really tell you something about the candidate. And I think the way in which Susie Wiles has run this campaign has told us something about Donald Trump. This is somebody who's gone through 10 or so different either chiefs of staff or campaign managers during his political career, all of whom have either tried to want a little bit of the spotlight for themselves or to try to change or shape him in some way. She does not do that. And here you have this Trump machine where, as I say in the piece, the drama and the headlines, and there's still plenty of drama and headlines, they're just coming from the candidate. That's the way Trump likes it. I think that's what we're going to continue to see.
And a big part of the campaign is going to be, of course, juggling his legal issues. We learned today that the Fulton County judge is allowing Trump and his co-defendants to move forward with an appeal of his ruling that kept Fani Willis off of the case, or she's now going to be on the case, I should say, rather. What does this mean for Trump that you have this appeal being able to go forward? But Fani Willis is still on this case. She's still allowed to go forward after, of course, Nathan Wade resigned.
This is the case that's probably always had the greatest long-term risk for Donald Trump, but perhaps the least short-term risk. It was very unlikely to go to trial before the election anyway. It's probably less likely to go to trial now than it has been after this entire episode with Fani Willis and with Nathan Wade. I do think now the possibility of an appeal here suggests a little bit more of a timing lifeline for Donald Trump. The legal analysis that I have seen, and I am not a lawyer, despite how much we talk about these cases on TV, doesn't suggest that this will get overturned on appeal. But even that process could continue to provide delay, which has been a lifeline for Donald Trump in so many ways.
I mean, the other thing we have to talk about is money. There's this big issue with the fact that there's $460 million. I got to read it because it's such big. This bond coming up for former President Trump. What happens if he doesn't have this bond, the money for this bond, and can't come up with this bond? And what does that mean for the overall sort of functioning of his campaign going forward? Yeah,
look, an unusual position for a billionaire candidate and a former president to basically need money on every front. His campaign is cash-strapped right now. They're very focused on fundraising for the campaign. He also needs this money personally for these legal challenges here. He's up against a bit of a wall here. If he doesn't come up with his bond by Monday, the state of New York could start trying to seize his assets. Now, I've talked to people in Trump's orbit who say, great. Let them show up and try to, change the locks at Trump Tower. It would be rocket fuel for his campaign. In a filing today, the AG's office suggested that perhaps some of his properties could be held in escrow by the court as a kind of a middle ground here. Trump has been very resistant to the idea that he could declare bankruptcy or sell properties in kind of a forced fire sale. They don't want to go through that, but they're running out of time to come up with some kind of plan.
Well, I know you're not a lawyer, but you really play a really good one on TV.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you, Garrett.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.